Hi, I'm Bob Wormsley and this is another Cinema 4D and HOT4D tutorial. So lots of people have been asking, how do you loop animations in HOT4D? And the quick answer to that is that you don't, because there isn't a loop function and it's a bit of a problem. All the usual tricks of looping noise don't work with HOT4D, but I have finally figured out a solution which will work. So if you have a look at this animation here, this is actually quite a short animation in HOT4D, but it's been looped about 5 times. And as you can see, there aren't any seams at all. It's completely seamless, perfectly looping, and looks like it's one long animation. So we're going to jump into Cinema 4D, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. So here we are back in Cinema 4D, and I've got my deformed plane here, which has been deformed by our HOT4D plugin. If I press play, we have this animated C, and this all looks fine. But the problem is, if we want to loop this to make an animated GIF, for example, we're going to have problems, because as you see, as this comes to the end of the timeline and then jumps back to the beginning, there's going to be an obvious jump. There's going to be a seam. Let's have a look. And now it jumps. Let's have a look again. And it jumps. And there isn't a loop function in HOT4D. Now, the developer, Valkyria, said that it's something that he might look at, creating a loopable function. But at the moment, it doesn't exist. So we have this problem. How do we loop this ocean to make sure we don't have this jump? Well, I've tried lots of different methods, and nothing has worked. But I finally come across a method by accident, really, and I was using motion systems in Cinema 4D for something else, and it dawned on me that we might be able to get this to work for us to loop this ocean. So what we're going to do is, let's just have a look at this one. Hide that original. So now we've got a similar C animating in a similar way, and it's animating away. But here it goes, it's coming to the end, it's coming to the end, and we have a perfect loop. So we've managed to do it. It is possible to loop HOT4D, and what we're going to use are the Cinema 4D motion systems, which is really, it's more for character animation, but we can get it to work for us for this, and there we go. There we have a loop. Now, it's not absolutely perfect, this method, but it will work for us, and I think the result is passable anyway. I'll point out the limitations in a bit. Okay, so that's it. That's what we're going to do. So let me show you how we can do that using motion systems to loop our HOT4D. So I'm going to make a new project, and I'm going to set the frame rate to 25 frames a second. Go to my render settings and do the render frame rate to 25 as well, so we don't make any mistakes later. Good. All right, so let's just start from scratch. So first we need a plane, and we want the plane to have, let's give it 200 by 200 subdivisions. I'll just put quick shading lines so we can see the subdivisions. There they are. All right, then we're going to go to plugins, HOT4D, and HOT4D comes in. Now this is a deformer, so we make it a child of the plane, and straight away we get some deformation. Now there's no animation as it comes in by default, so I'm just going to put 300 frames on my timeline and go to frame 0, and I'm going to hit a keyframe on the time parameter here. Go to the last frame. Let's try it. 60 is probably okay for this. Put another keyframe. Press play. And now we have some animation, but there's an ease in and an ease out to that animation, which is not what we want. We just want it to be a consistent movement. So I'm going to go to my timeline, which I've docked here. You can see your timeline from this menu, the window menu. So timeline, and press H to frame the keyframes. And I want to hit this button. I want them to be linear. All right, good. So now when we press play, we've got steady animation with no ease in and ease out of those keyframes. So let's just get rid of those lines, and we'll just make it, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in HOT4D, but let's just make a few adjustments. So Just going to increase my wind speed, increase my wave height, give it a bit of choppiness. That's looking good. All right, I'll leave it at that. So we've got a notion that we're happy with, but this is the problem. We're getting towards the end and jump, it snaps, and that's no good, is it? So how do we set up motion systems to loop this ocean? Well, what we are going to do is, first of all, we need to bake this animation from this plane. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make it editable. So I'm going to hold down Control or Command on a Mac and drag that to make a copy. And this one's going to be our original, just in case we need to go back to it. So let's call that original. Good. And then we can hide that one and turn off hot so it runs quicker. All right, good. So this is our new one. And I'm going to select it and press C, or you can press this button here, which makes it editable. So press it, press C, and now it's polygons. Good, that's the first stage. And we want another copy because we're going to blend one into the other using motion systems, and that's how we're going to get this fake loop. So I'm going to hold Control again or Command on a Mac and drag that and make a second copy. All right. Now, what we need to do is we need a start point. So the start of one plane is exactly the same animation as the end of the other. So this is a bit tricky to get your head around at first. But our first plane, I want it to start at frame 150. So the beginning of this animation of this plane starts at this point, 150. And then on our second plane, I want it to end, I want the last frame to be 149. Okay, so when this one ends, this one begins and it comes round to the same point. That's how we're going to fake the loop. So how do we do that? Well, let's just make this one invisible for now. So we're just going to concentrate on our first one. And we want this to start at 150 and to end at 300. So the way we're going to do it is this. I'm going to change the start of my timeline to start at frame 150 and it ends at 300. Okay, and then we're going to bake in this animation. And the way we're going to bake it in is we're going to go to the plane. We're going to go to tags, a character tag, and we're going to use the point cache tool. So let's click on that. And what the point cache tool is going to do, it is going to work out the position of every point. Let me just put these, let's just go to point mode. It's going to work out the position of every one of these points on every frame. And it's going to work out where that point is in the X, Y, and the Z axes. So this will make more sense in a sec. So we hit our point cache tag. And first of all, we have to hit store state, which stores its initial state at frame 150. So hit that. Good. And then we just have to hit calculate. And it's going to chug through the animation and it's recording in this cache tag the position of every one of those points. Cool. And now it's finished. It's gone super distorted. Why has it done that? Well, it's because it doesn't need this HOT4D anymore because it's baked in all of that animation. So it's effectively applying the HOT4D deformation twice, which is what we don't need that. So let's just deactivate it. So now it's not reading HOT4D, it's just animating using that baked point information. And if I go to I'm in object view at the moment, if I go to the structure view of this object, you can see here are all the points. Look how many, there's thousands of points. How many are there? 40,000 points. and each one has got an X, Y, and a Z position, and as we scrub through, they change. So that's how it's baked in this animation. Great. So that's the first one. So now let's just, I can get rid of that now, so I'll delete that HOT4D, and I'm going to rename this one frame 150 to 300, just so I've got my head around it. Good. Now what we need to do is do the same thing for this plane, but we need to record the first 150 frames. So the way we do that is I'm going to press 0, and the last one is going to be frame 149. So let's just hide that. And this is our new plane. So now we want to bake in on this other plane the first 150 frames. So we do the same thing. Hit tags, character tags, point cache, store state, calculate, and it's going to burn in all of those point information for the first 150 frames. Great, and then we can delete the HOT4D. Let's rename this frame 0 to 149. Very good. So I'm just going to give myself a bit more space on the timeline. So now what we've got, I'm just going to take this one and just move it slightly. So now what we've got is two planes. One of them is animating the first 150 frames of that movement, and the other is animating the last 150 frames of the movement. Good. So let's just put that one back to where it was. All right, so if you're a little bit confused as to what we're doing at the moment, don't worry, it will make sense in a sec, but just keep following along and we'll get there. Right, the next thing we have to do is we have to bake this animation from this point cache tag into keyframes, which thankfully is very easy to do. So I'm going to go to timeline, and what I want to do is I want to drag in my first plane, which is my 150 to 300 one. So let's just drag it and draw it here. There it is. And there's no keyframes in this at all. There's no animation. It's all baked into this tag. But we want to change that from tag information to keyframes. So the way we're going to do it is we will go to functions, and we're going to bake objects. So we're going to hit bake, and we'll get a submenu. So we want to bake this in 0 to 150 frames. We're going to create a copy, which means it'll leave this one alone. It'll make a copy and apply all the keyframes to that. So then we can go back to this one should we need to. And we have to click PLA, which is point level animation. And that is going to keyframe all of this point information that was in this tag and change it into keyframes. Okay, so that's good. So now all we need to do is press OK. And there we go. So it's made this copy, and now the copy has all these keyframes. So if we go back to our view and we hide our, this is our original, and this is our new one. So all we're looking at the new one, and now we have keyframed information, which is perfect. Okay, so let's just hide that one for now, and let's get our next frame. So this one we need to do the same thing. So let's go to timeline. We'll drag this one in. Okay. So 0 to 149. So let's go to function, bake objects. We want 0 to 149. Create copy, point level animation, OK. And now we've baked that in. So let's go back to our view. So we can hide the original. And here's our copy. All right, so now we have clips with keyframes. So now what we need to be able to do, we've got these two different animations we have. Let's bring it down. And I'll move one up. So we have one that starts at the original frame 150, and we have one that ends at the original frame 150. So by putting these two together, we're going to get a loop. Okay. So this is how we put them together. Let's just undo that so they're both on top of each other. What we need to do is make a motion clip which allows us to blend the animation of one object into the animation of another object seamlessly. So this is our first clip. Our sequence is going to start on a frame 150. So what I'm going to do is have that selected, and I'm going to go to Animate, Add Motion Clip, which brings up this box. And what we need to do is create the motion clip, and we need to include point level animation, and everything else we can leave as it is. So let's press OK. And you can see this little symbol has appeared here. I'm just going to make that invisible. This little symbol's appeared, which means it's a motion clip. And everything is running as it was before. But this is the difference. If we go to our timeline, and this is our keyframe view where we were, and if we go to this button, which is our motion view, we now have a motion source, which is this object, and here it is in a layer. So if I scrub along that, this is the movement of our plane, and it's baked in. But this is the brilliant thing about motion sources. If I just extend this to 275 frames, you see it says it's going to play at 179% of its original size, which means that this animation now is much slower, but it's exactly the same animation, but it's just lasting much longer, which is amazing control. Let's go back to the timeline. If I shorten it, then the same animation will be really quick and happen over fewer frames. So motion systems are very, very powerful. I mean, that's fantastic control to be able to change the speed of that baked animation that easily. That's great. So let's put this back to, where is it? 100%. Frame 150. 100%. Okay, cool. So that's one. So let's just go back to our view. And so now we want to get our other one. We've got frame 150 to 300 baked as a motion clip. Now we want to bake the first few frames as a motion clip. So I'm going to do the same thing. Click on it so it's highlighted. I'm going to go to Animate, Add Motion Clip. 0 to 149 is correct. Point level animation. And press OK. And now we have another motion clip. Now what we're going to, if I go back to the timeline, we have our next motion clip created here. So now we have two. And now we have two layers. And they're both on top of each other. And if they're both on top of each other, it means that we can see both like we could before. And if I scrub along, there, they're both animating away, which isn't what we want. So this is the clever bit. We don't need to look at our second motion clip, the one we've just made. I'm going to hide that. We just want to look at our original one, and this is just our original clip. And in the timeline, we don't need this second layer, this new layer that we made from our new clip. We don't need it. So I'm going to hit delete and get rid of it. So now we've got our original motion clip here, but this is the really clever bit. Now I'm just going to make a little bit of room in my timeline. Let's put this up to 350 frames. What I can do is drag in the newer one and put it on the same track. So I'm just going to join them up so they're matching. So now it's going to play one and it's going to play the other. Let's have a look. One starts and then the next one starts. Now there's a big jump there and this is not right, but we've layered two animations from two separate objects into this same one. Okay. And this is the trick. Because the way in which we split our clip up, frame 0 should be one frame beyond this last frame. So this last frame should lead into frame 0. So let's just see. So when does it stop animating? Frame 300 is the last frame. Let's go with the timeline. So frame 300 is our last frame. So I'm going to put 300 in there. Go back to the view. Now, this isn't right yet because we've got this join in the middle. But let's have a look. If we press play, is this going to be seamless? Let's have a look. Yes, seamless. Perfect. So the end and the beginning of our loop is perfect, but we now have this problem of this jump in the middle. So how do we do this? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to blend the transition over lots of frames to try and hide that jump as best we can. So we'll go to timeline, and all we have to do, if I overlap this, it's going to automatically blend. You can see the line here. The blending line is a crossfade, as if you're video editing in Premiere, you're crossfading from this animation to this animation. So let's have a look. So you can see that there is a blend. It flattens out ever so slightly and then goes into the next one. But it's not bad. So let's see what our new end point is frame 238. So let's type 238 into here. Back to view. And let's play. And let's see what this looks like. So we should have a seamless loop at the end. Perfect. Now what does the blend look like? This is the key. Can we get away with this? Smooth it out a bit. I think we get away with that. And depending on your animation in HOT4D, all you have to do is play around with the way in which these are overlapping, how many frames, to get you a better blend. So let's just do I'll do a bad blend. Let's do a very short blend, and you'll see this. So let's have a look. There. So there's an obvious blend there, isn't there, between the two as it's mixing those position points, and you wouldn't get away with that. I mean, that's just awful. So usually the longer your overlap, the better the blend will be. Let's have a look at this one. Yeah, so I think you'd probably get away with that. Let's do an even longer one. So frame 201 is now our new end. Let's have a look. It's starting to blend now. Yeah, so I think that's fine. That's pretty much seamless, and then it joins. Fantastic. So there we are. We have a looped ocean animation using motion systems. Now these take a little bit of getting used to. I know it's slightly complicated. So what I'd suggest is have a go, follow the video, do it a couple of times. The more you do it, the more you'll get your head around where you have to match up frames and why we've split it in the middle. But the key was to get two different animations of the same plane, and we needed the last frame of the second animation to bleed into the first frame of the next, which is why we split it in two. Watch it a couple of times and I think you'll get your head around it. Any questions, just comment on the video and I'll answer them. But hopefully you'll get some success with this. And this is the best solution I've come up with to loop these animated oceans using HOT4D. So if you could subscribe to me on YouTube, that'd help, and then you'll get a message every time I've posted some new tutorials. If you could like the video or even share it, that would be fantastic as well. And lots more tutorials to come. So until next time, see ya.